Hello, everybody, and welcome to my presentation on the concept of concepts. My name is Stuart Prestige. I'm a technology advisor and software startup coach, and this is just a fancy way of saying that I help startups. I help with anything technology related and a lot of things business related. In essence, my passion is to help founders turn their idea into reality. This means high quality software products, a team, and a business to start getting customers and revenue. I do this by running an academy for founders. I have a training course for early stage founders, and I also advise and mentor founders and CEOs and CTOs. I've been creating software startups as a founder and CTO for over 30 years. My first startup was back in 1988, not quite before the term startup was used, but not far off. But even before that, when I was 12, I got my first computer. And within a couple of days, I'd learned BASIC and created my first app. I went on to create many others, mostly games, adventure games, Pac-Man, Space Invaders, for those of you watching that can remember that far back, and some original award-winning games. As I'm sure you can tell, I love writing apps and creating software solutions. In 1990, my business partner and I started creating a business app called Office Talk. Does anyone remember the Teletubbies? Well, for some reason that I don't understand, they seem to have made their way into the logo. Anyway, Office Talk had everything: a mail client, a mail server, shared calendars, CRM, chat functionality, and much more. It was a beast. It was all things to all people. But when it came to sell, it was too confusing. And we didn't have anywhere near the number of sales that we were expecting, just a few thousand, in fact. And the reason for this? I didn't sit down beforehand and work out our business and technology requirements. Now, this was a big lesson for me. From then onwards, whenever designing and creating a new product for myself, for someone else, or advising another founder, I make sure to understand the requirements. Fast forward 30 years, and I've created a structured process called the S5 methodology. This gets you from your idea to your structured documentation, including requirements, wireframes, and specifications, all the way through to launch. Following this makes the whole process smoother, faster, cheaper, and higher quality. A far cry from those early days 30 years ago. Now, there's not enough time today, unfortunately, to take you through the S5 methodology, but connect with me on LinkedIn if you'd like to know more. I'm sure most of you watching today have already been through the process of writing down your thoughts, i.e. a brain dump. Now, this may have been in the form of a mind map, but it can be a structured document. And as you may know, this can be quite large. In fact, I've worked with founders that have taken months and months to create this. There's a lot of information and it can be overwhelming. So, how do you go from there to a full set of structured documentation? Well, as I'm sure you've guessed, you break it down into smaller steps. And again, I haven't got time to cover all of these steps now, but I do have a cheat sheet for you that outlines these steps. I'll share a QR code at the end of the presentation so you can download this. So I'll just focus today on one important step of the journey. And that step is what I call defining your concepts. So, what are your concepts? Well, they're the things in your ecosystem. Basically, the nouns and the verbs, the words and phrases that represent anything you might refer to in your ecosystem. For example, end user, username, password, date of birth, wallet, article, comment, notification, sign up, sign in, purchase, submit a post. The list goes on and on. And these are sometimes single words and sometimes they're phrases. Your concepts document is a list of these, each with a description. The descriptions can refer to other concepts and ideally are hyperlinks to those definitions. So you're building a definition tree, basically. Now, circular references are practically unavoidable, but you must take care that this doesn't leave your definitions unclear. And try not to include anything UI or UX specific like screens, pages, widgets, etc. It's not always avoidable, but try not to. And you'll end up with a document for anyone to understand your terminology and your definitions. And when building your application, there are potentially many people involved: designers, developers, testers, investors, customers, etc. So the concepts document is a great way to align everybody on terminology. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's so simple and obvious. Why do I even need to do this? Well, you're right. It is simple and obvious, but there are real benefits to doing it. It forces you to think through all the concepts in detail. You end up with a clear, concise, complete, and correct set of concepts, and creating documentation and communication become much easier moving forward. In turn, this saves time, money, confusion, and sometimes actual issues. I've seen a number of situations where terminology, especially ambiguous things, is not locked down. And this just causes confusion backwards and forwards in emails and ultimately leads to inefficiency and sometimes errors. So here's an example concepts document. Now, you don't need to read all the text, but it gives you a flavor of what it looks like. You can use a Google document, Markdown, HTML, or any format of your choice. And I've actually created a tool specifically designed to help create concepts documents. So the main concept, i.e. the starting point, is usually the app itself. And as I mentioned a moment ago, each one has a description that can reference other concepts clickable in this document. And note also that the process of defining your concepts may well throw up questions. These questions should also be documented here. Later on, they'll go into your question register, but that's part of the bigger process that I don't have time to cover today. Ultimately, everything should be defined in this document in terms of things that the reader understands without ambiguity. Therefore, someone who reads the whole document understands all your concepts without having to refer to other sources. Okay, so that was a quick and simple overview of the concepts document. It's a simple thing and it can take a while to do, but it's well worth the effort. But it's just one of the steps in the process of turning your brain dump into your requirements and product specification documents. And as I mentioned earlier, I have a cheat sheet explaining all the steps of the process. So use this QR code here to get hold of the cheat sheet. I thoroughly recommend it. Also, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know if you want access to the tool that I use to create concepts documents. And if you have any questions, let me know on LinkedIn. So, thanks very much for watching and have a great day, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.